All right. I want you to really, really picture this. But I don't want you to picture this as a story. I don't want you to picture this as history. I want you to picture this as something that's happening right now. You wake up, you grab yourself some coffee. Maybe you're into those, those new flavored teas. Maybe this isn't probably a maybe. You grab your phone, start off your day, because it's just a normal day. Maybe you have a smoothie. Maybe you have some Lucky Charms. Maybe you grab your Squatch juice and you head out the door. Again, just a normal day. But then, out of nowhere, a nuclear bomb falls from the sky above, right? Well, where you're standing, because it's up there somewhere, right? This isn't a test. This isn't a warning. This is not even something that's controlled. This is a real, fully armed nuclear weapon falling toward your town. Now, here's the part that I guess probably doesn't feel real right here, because this actually happened in the United States. And one of those bombs went through almost every step required to detonate. Only one thing that stopped it. You know what that one thing that actually stopped it? It was one single switch. And if that switch fails, we're not listening to this podcast right now, because I'm not going to be here recording this, because everything in the world would have changed. So today, we're not going to ask if, we're asking something way more uncomfortable. How did this not happen? Welcome back, everybody, to the Triple T podcast. The voice you're hearing, it's me, it's Matt, it's Beardlaws, and joining me is the co-host of the Triple T podcast. You know him. You love him. What is up, my dude?
Well, look who's here. The legendary Beardlaws in all his glory. What's up, my friend? I'm just here ready to stir the pot, drop some laughs, and maybe, just maybe, say something mildly ridiculous. So what are we getting into today?
Well, the intro, I tried to really get him, but we're going to talk about the time. And again, don't give anything away, because we got a lot to dig into. We're going to talk about the time when we almost dropped nuclear bombs on ourselves.
Ah, yes, that tiny little oopsie where we almost turned ourselves into a glow-in-the-dark civilization. I love a good near-apocalypse story, don't worry. I'll keep the suspense dialed up so high it'll rival a Hitchcock plot twist. Let's dive into the chaos, shall we?
I like how you said a tiny little oopsie. A tiny little oopsie is maybe you drop the milk when you're passing it to somebody. A tiny little oopsie is maybe you sneeze and a fart comes out. A tiny little oopsie isn't a nuclear bomb almost taking out, part of the United States, if not more.
Fair point. When it comes to accidental nuclear chaos, oopsie might be a bit of an understatement. Let's just say that one was more of a whoops, almost vaporized civilization kind of moment. We'll give it the gravity it deserves while still keeping our wits about us.
Very true. Very true. And if you're new here, we can't thank you enough for finding this. Let us know right now in the comments how in the heck you found us. This is the Triple T podcast. It's been a lot of things. It started off as TikTok Tuesday, where myself and some amazing dudes, we would watch TikToks, we'd react, and then it evolved into Time Travel Tuesday with some, awesome co-hosts as well. And then it's just kind of evolved into me and Luther talking conspiracy theories or really anything that we wanted to. We haven't really came up with what the triple T's are, the T, the T, the T, but maybe Luther's got something. He loves tea. I'm more of a coffee guy, but either way, like we talk turning points, we talk timelines, we talk theories, and then we kind of dig into those moments, put our twist, put our humor, put our, I would say knowledge, but I'm not that knowledgeable. And we just kind of put our twist on some things that are, either very well known or maybe it's the first time you've ever heard it. I mean, let's make this history. Let's make this episode in this series what we do. It's fun. I love hanging out here for 30 minutes chatting with the old Luther Grimwood.
And what a delight it is to be here, sipping metaphorical tea while we unravel the universe. Honestly, whether it's TikToks, time travel, or tales of almost blowing ourselves up, the fun is in the spin we put on it. So buckle up. Today we'll dig into that near disaster, sprinkle in some questionable wisdom, and hopefully not trigger any alarms. Let's make this one for the history books, or at least the comment section.
Yeah, let's go with the comment section because you can't trust history books. We've done a lot of things that are theories, right? So you would think that one of the T's in TTT podcast would be theories, but I don't know. I'm going to let Luther kind of sit on that one for a little bit. But today's episode, it's not a theory because this really did happen, and it was potentially something that wasn't talked about. I know until I started digging into this and the story was kind of presented to me, I had no clue that this was even a thing.
Exactly. This one is no mere what if. This is a holy smokes that actually happened scenario. And the best part, we get to spill all the wild details. So if anyone thought they were having a rough day, just wait until they hear how close we came to an accidental self barbecue. Let's serve up some truth with a side of disbelief.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So, all right, should we jump right into this, my dude? Or you got anything else that you want to say to kind of build into this?
Oh, I say we dive right in. The only thing I'd add is, if you're listening, buckle up, grab your popcorn, and maybe keep your finger off any big red buttons because this story's about to blow your mind, not your neighborhood. Let's do this.
Ooh, what kind of popcorn would you get? I think I talked about it on this, or at least one of the shows that we do here on the Beard Laws Network, and we tried the Greedy Goblin in Potsdam, New York, and woo, is it good? I had a little bit of some, what was it? It was pretty sweet, but I had like dehydrated marshmallows and stuff like that. It was like something like the Leprechaun Trap or something like that with Lucky Charms and popcorn. But we've had some good stuff. We had some spicy maple bourbon and some Goblin Grunch or Crunch or something. It was some good stuff.
Oh, you're speaking my language. I'd go for that spicy maple bourbon popcorn in a heartbeat because if we're going to unpack near miss apocalypses, we might as well do it with a kick. Also, the name Goblin Crunch just feels right for our vibe chaotic, surprising, and strangely addicting.
Very true. Very true. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this because talking about popcorn, it made me hungry. Let's go back to a world that expected the end because this all happened during Cold War times, and it's just wasn't not what's the right word I'm saying? It wasn't just about politics. The Cold War was just as much about paranoia. You had two superpowers in the world, the United States and the Soviet Union, locked in a standoff where nobody wanted to fire first. But Luther, paint the scene a little bit better. You're more of the Cold War expert here, and just kind of paint the scene of how the world was, and kind of some key points, I guess, of the early Cold War, situation.
Oh, the Cold War. Picture this. The world was basically one giant pressure cooker. You had both the US and the Soviets stockpiling enough nukes to turn the planet into a glow stick. Everyone was ducking under desks in drills like that'd help against a nuke. Adorable, right? The Cuban Missile Crisis was peak tension with everyone wondering if they'd wake up to mushroom clouds. Long story short, the whole world was tiptoeing on eggshells, and any blip on a radar could have spelled doom. Fun times.
Yeah, like you said, everybody, nobody wanted to shoot first, but I have to kind of say, I guess everybody was ready to shoot first, but nobody really wanted to make the first move, right?
Exactly. It was like the world's tensest game of who blinks first. Everyone's finger was hovering over the button, but they were all thinking, wait, is this the end of civilization or just a false alarm? The paranoia was so thick you could cut it with a rusty Soviet bayonet.
Ugh. And like you said, kids are practicing the old duck and cover in school, which I still don't get. Looking back at this now, Luther, is there any reason that this was being done, this was being taught, other than to add to the paranoia? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, it was 99% false comfort. If a nuclear blast hit, your desk wasn't saving anyone. But psychologically, it made people feel like they had some control. Plus, I think it gave teachers a chance to say, get under the desk and stay quiet, which might have been the only moment of peace they got.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking it was more for. And back in the day, they'd say get under the desk and stay quiet for a couple of minutes. They'd light a cigarette, grab that whiskey in their drawer, and just enjoy peace and quiet. And probably thinking, well, What am I going to do if this happens? And not only they were the only ones kind of not thinking that, but you had a bunch of families too that were starting to build fallout shelters in their backyards if that was going to happen. You had entire cities that were planning evacuation routes for something that nobody can survive.
Exactly. It was like preparing for a storm that you knew would level the whole house. But hey, it kept people busy, digging bunkers, stocking canned beans, and thinking they had a chance. Humans are funny. We'll try to control the uncontrollable. But it's wild to think how close we came to needing all that prep.
Yeah. And I mean, let's be honest, with everything that's going on in the world today and things that have been in the news at the time of the recording with talks of, ending entire civilizations and this and that, it's got people kind of thinking, it's got people kind of paranoid again. I'm not saying it's a Cold War era, especially because of global warming, but it's got people thinking a little different. I know each time we go to the store, we pick up a couple extra cans and, kind of slowly building the pantry, and might have to bust out the old archery skills again just in case, because I don't know. At least in the Cold War era, I feel like people had a better chance of, going through tougher times, with less food, being able to be self sufficient. But in this digital world, I can't imagine a world where it's not pure chaos. And let's be honest, I feel like a lot of us are too soft now, and it would take some extreme, people and situations for us to be able to make it through.
You nailed it. Back then, folks were at least used to fixing things with their hands and living off the land. Today, if Wi-Fi goes down, people lose it. But hey, maybe your archery skills will make you the neighborhood hero. I say we keep a few extra cans, and maybe, just maybe, we'll all toughen up if we have to. But let's hope the only things we're battling are awkward Wi-Fi outages.
Yeah, that's all hope. But back in the Cold War era, people, with all the crazy things that we kind of just talked about, and everything, they just kind of lived with it, and there was this kind of underlying understanding that at any moment everything could simply end. And in that environment, the US military made a decision that feels absolutely insane now. Not sure how it wasn't then, but I guess at the time it just maybe felt necessary. They decided to take nuclear weapons and put them in the air constantly in a little program called Airborne Alert. You want to tell the people about Airborne Alert?
Oh, airborne alert, because why not keep nukes flying around 24/7, right? The idea was to have bombers literally in the air at all times, loaded with nuclear weapons. So if things kicked off, they'd be ready to strike. Because obviously nothing could go wrong with that plan. It was called Operation Chrome Dome. Sounds cool, but it was basically a giant game of let's hope we don't drop one by accident. Spoiler, accidents almost happened. But that's the Cold War for you. Paranoia with a side of high stakes aviation.
Could you imagine how bad it would be, the public fallout, if right now we learned that there was just nuclear bombs flying all over the place, nuclear bombs on satellites, nuclear bombs just on the spaceship that returns? Could you imagine if they were just everywhere in the air?
Oh, the internet would explode faster than any bomb. Can you imagine the memes? Forgot your keys? At least you didn't forget your airborne nuke. The public outrage would be off the charts. Let's just say, I think we'd all prefer our skies filled with birds and planes, minus the nuclear payload.
Yeah, except for those people that were wearing tinfoil hats that think that birds are, cameras and drones and they're not real. Then they might be all right with the bombs in the air. But yeah, it just carrying weapons capable of ending millions of lives in the air overhead all the time, not in a bunker, not locked away, but in the sky. And I just don't get that, during those times, nobody really questioned anything like, what happens if something goes wrong up there?
Exactly. I mean, it's like juggling chainsaws while blindfolded. What could possibly go wrong? But I guess back then people just assumed, well, the government knows what they're doing. Spoiler, sometimes not so much. It's a miracle one of those flying disasters didn't give us an early fireworks show. Let's just say I'm glad that phase is over.
Oh, you aren't kidding. Let's talk about a specific one though. All right, let's go January 23rd, 1961. Know what else was going on in baseball in 1961? Do you know, Luther?
Oh, you know I've got you. That's the year Roger Maris broke Babe Ruth's single-season home run record with 61 bombs. Meanwhile, speaking of bombs, while Maris was swinging for the fences, a B-52 was breaking records in the "Oops, we almost nuked ourselves" department. Quite the year for unexpected records.
Well played. Well played. Yeah, like you said, there was a B 52, took off from Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in North Kakalaki, North Carolina. On board, there was two Mark 39 thermonuclear bombs, each one roughly 3 to 4 megatons. So, to put that in perspective, Hiroshima, we know about that. That was about 15 kilotons. This, hundreds of times more powerful. Each bomb alone could devastate a massive area. But two of them? Now we're talking about something that doesn't even feel real. I mean, could you imagine being the crew that knows exactly what they're carrying in their train? They just feel like this is routine.
I can't even imagine the nerves. It's like, hey, just another day at work, hope I don't accidentally drop the apocalypse. They probably had to pretend it was normal. But deep down, that had to be like carrying the weight of the world, literally. And the scary part, to them it was just the job. Talk about stressful commutes.
Chew. Yeah, you think sitting through traffic in a city is a rough commute. Imagine sitting in traffic in a city with nuclear bombs that could pretty much end civilization. But like you said, I would have to imagine at first, everything's normal, everything seems okay. I'm just doing my job like I'm told. But let's be honest, disasters, they don't start with explosions. They start small. They start quiet. They start pretty much unnoticeable. Maybe, like a fuel leak?
Ah, yes, the humble fuel leak, the little gremlin of aviation. On that flight, it was like the universe whispered, let's spice things up. And just like that, one tiny malfunction set off a chain reaction. With fuel leaking, control slipping away, that crew realized pretty quickly. This was no routine. That's when you know things are about to get boom or bust.
Oh, boom or bust indeed. And at first, this little small problem before it turned into a big problem, it seemed manageable, just something to monitor. But then the numbers start changing. Fuel is dropping fast, way faster than it should. This isn't just like a little bit of a drip, this is thousands of pounds of fuel leaking out. The crew realized pretty quickly the plane isn't going to make it. So they have to make the call to turn back, try to land. But here's the problem: at 30,000 feet, you don't get a lot of second chances. The aircraft, it's already compromised, and now it's getting worse. The structure, it starts to fail. Now, slowly, not gradually, violently, the plane begins to break apart mid-air. And now everything changes, right? And again, there's a heavy amount of nuclear bombs on this plane.
That's when the calm becomes sheer chaos. The plane is tearing apart midair, and you've got two megaton level bombs falling toward Earth. It's no longer a flight, it's a catastrophe in progress. The crew, now ejecting for their lives, knows that those bombs are no longer secured. And now it's not just about the plane, it's about what's going to happen when those bombs hit the ground. That's a no turning back moment. History is about to hinge on pure luck.
Yeah, because we're at 30,000 feet. And that aircraft, it's disintegrating pretty quickly. And suddenly, you've got something that should never happen. Two nuclear bombs. They're not attached to anything. And guess what? They're not attached to anything. They're falling apart. You know what they're doing? They're falling through the sky.
And that's when everyone's worst nightmare takes shape. Two armed nukes plummeting. Now, luckily, these bombs weren't just instant boom. They had safety mechanisms. But as they dropped, one of them actually armed itself partially. One parachute deployed, the other didn't. It was luck and a bit of engineering that stopped the worst from happening. But for those moments, the world was one switch away from disaster.
Way to slow play it. I'm trying to build this up, Luther, right? This is how it's done, right? You got two nuclear bombs floating through the air. They're not attached anymore. One of them, as Luther already said, the parachute, it deployed exactly like it's designed, which sounds like a good thing, right? Until you realize what that exactly means, because that parachute, it's not just for safety. It's part of the arming process. It actually slows the bomb down and allows the system to activate, and it begins the sequence that prepares it for detonation. Now, inside of a bomb crashing, you've got a bomb floating down, arming itself. See how I did that there?
Oh, I see you building that tension like a pro. And yes, that's the terrifying twist. One bomb was literally one step away from changing history. Thankfully, that last step never triggered. But can you imagine the crew, the military, everyone realizing how close that was? You couldn't write a more intense near miss.
No. Let's talk about the second bomb. No parachute. It fell fast, hard, uncontrolled, and slams into the ground. Two bombs, two completely different outcomes. And somehow, the one that looks safer is the one that almost ended everything.
It's wild, right? The bomb that crashed and buried itself was actually safer because it didn't arm. Meanwhile, the one drifting down gently gave everyone heart attacks. In the end, all the fail-safes held, but just barely. It's a perfect example of how close we've come to history taking a disastrous turn. One parachute, one circuit, and we'd be telling a very different story.
Sounds like a song. One parachute, one nuclear bomb, one almost ending the whole entire world civilization. Anyways, before we get into any more terrible songs and before we get into what happened next, because this is where it gets pretty hard to believe, let's just pause for a quick second because we've been talking about systems failing, things breaking, and how one small detail can change everything. So let me ask you something. What's your beard routine? If your answer is, I don't really have one, or, I just kind of wing it, I'm a man, well, you're basically running the same strategy as this plane. And we just saw how that turned out. That's why I use Live Bearded. There's no guessing, there's no overthinking. Beard oils, beard butters, washes, conditioners, deodorant, utility spray, soap, everything you need to actually take care of your beard and your body the right way. Here's the part I love. They have a 365-day guarantee, which basically means if you don't like it, they don't want your money. Imagine if nuclear failsafes had that kind of confidence. We're probably not even telling this story right now. So if you want your beard dialed in, head over to livebearded.com. Use code BEARDLAWS at checkout. All right, now let's get into the part of the story that makes absolutely no sense because we're going to talk about the parachute bomb. This is where things get pretty uncomfortable. Nuclear weapons, they're not supposed to just go off. They're built with multiple fail-safes, layers of protection, redundancies. The idea is simple. If something goes wrong, there are systems in place to prevent detonation. In theory, it's impossible for one to go off accidentally. In theory, because what happened next challenges that entire idea. Because as the bomb descends, it begins its arming sequence. Step by step, systems activate, safeties disengage. Internal mechanisms, they align in one by one. The fail-safes start to fail. Not one, not two, almost all of them. Think about it. Every layer designed to prevent disaster, one by one, stops doing its job till there's only one thing left.
And that one thing, just one single low voltage switch, saved the world. Everything else failed, but that one piece didn't. If it had, we wouldn't be here joking around. That bomb was a heartbeat away from rewriting history. It's humbling and terrifying that we came down to one last lucky break. So when people say fail safes, well, sometimes they fail until they don't. That last switch deserves a medal.
Yeah, like you said, it was a simple low voltage switch. It wasn't some massive system. It wasn't some advanced safeguard. It was a simple switch. And for whatever reason, it holds. That's the only reason that the bomb doesn't detonate. It was one teeny tiny piece of technology standing between reality and catastrophe. And for years, the story was downplayed, presented like everything was under control. But when documents were declassified, there was a different story that came out. This wasn't control, this was luck. And the people who investigated it, they knew it.
Absolutely. When those documents came out, even the experts were shaken. They realized just how razor thin that margin was. It wasn't a controlled situation, it was a near catastrophe. And honestly, it's a reminder that sometimes we were playing with fire and got lucky. One switch, one chance, and we're still here. Makes you think twice about what failsafe really means.
That's our next single. One chance, one switch, one world. I like it. It's powerful. Luther, give us a little more details, a little more context, exactly where the plane was and where they projected that the bomb in the parachute was gonna land and just devastate.
Oh, it gets even scarier. This was over Goldsboro, North Carolina. If that bomb had detonated, we're talking millions of lives across the eastern seaboard. Washington, D.C., New York, you name it. Potential fallout, devastation, you can picture it. So this wasn't some isolated field. This was a heavily populated area. And knowing that makes the what if even more haunting.
So, to put things into perspective, for people that are wondering, with that amount of nuclear bombs, that would have, I mean, it would have been one bomb, and it goes off. There's a chance that that second bomb in the area also goes off from the explosion, right? And if that's the case from Goldsboro, what's the area of the fallout? Like you said, New York, and you said like that, but really, and it can be a ballpark area. How high does it go? Does it go all the way to Canada? Do we go all the way as far as like Indiana, Illinois, or does it go farther, like maybe Texas, Illinois, Colorado? What are we talking here?
Oh, it would have been catastrophic. A blast of that magnitude could have immediate devastation over tens of miles. Fallout? That's wind dependent. But we're talking potentially stretching out the eastern seaboard. DC, Philly, New York, and depending on conditions, radioactive particles could drift hundreds of miles. So while we're not talking Texas or Canada directly in the blast, the fallout would have been a massive multi state nightmare.
Wow. That is so scary to think, because then there's the other things that you probably don't even think about. Like hypothetically, it takes out, say, New York City, not only the lives lost, but the power grids in situations like that where, the trickle effect of everybody else that relies on those power grids, that infrastructure and everything else, they're they're in a world of hurt too, without even having the nuclear fallout.
Exactly. It's not just the immediate blast, it's the ripple effect. You lose a major hub like New York, and suddenly infrastructure collapses. Finance, transportation, supply chains, whole regions would be thrown into chaos. So, yeah, that what if scenario isn't just local, it's an entire societal shockwave. We dodged something that could have altered the whole nation.
Unbelievable. So, obviously, with all that being said, this is kind of what sticks with me. Not just that this did happen, but how close it really did come. One switch. That's it. I mean, it's almost as simple as your light turning on and off with a switch. That's the difference between everything continuing and everything changing. If that doesn't make you stop and think, well, I'm not sure what will. But before we head out of here, quick shout out to Squatch Juice. Because if you're anything like me, you probably listen to stuff like this thinking, all right, I need something to wake me up after that. And to be honest with you, when I'm not drinking my coffee, Squatch Juice is my go to. Hydration, focus, energy. It just it hits, I don't know, it just hits you just like it there's no jitter. It just hits you. It's clean, and you don't even realize how locked in that you really are. And like I said, I do love my coffee, and a lot of the times I do the hydration, focus, energy from Squatch Juice. I do it in the after lunch, like an afternoon little pick me up. And like I said, it doesn't kind of hit me like that coffee where I'm like, yeah, that was a clean visual, right? But either way, it's clean, it works, and it's going to keep you locked in for the day. So, if you want to be like me and you want to stay sharp, check out squatchjuice.com/beardlaws. And if you made it this far in the episode, you're exactly who this show is for, because these aren't just stories. These are moments where everything almost changed, and somehow we're still here. And if you love moments like this, check out Best Moment Ever, which is a show right here on the Beard Laws Network where I find a moment. I we've done everything from the Will Smith slap to we landed on the moon, which ironic with everything going on. What did we do last week? Last week we did the O.J. Simpson Bronco chase. We've done the invention of the printing press. We're all over the place, but we're looking for the best moment ever. We do a whole ranking and see what we can come up with as the best moment ever. So take a look at the other shows right here on the Beard Laws Network. Our main channel, if you're into beard stuff, is, well, Beard Laws Studio, where we have Beardtory, the Beard Report, daily reactions. And if you're wondering, Yorktown, where are you? I miss you. Well, it's on its own YouTube, youtube.com at Yorktown. I'd love you to go check it out and subscribe. Maybe we'll do something special once we get up to that like 500 or 1,000 subscribers over there. But either way, can't thank you enough. Luther, take us out of here with a cool, awesome, whatever you want in outro. You got me?
You know it. Folks, thanks for riding with us through this wild, almost apocalypse journey. Remember, sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's that one little switch. But hey, we're still here, so let's make the best of it. Whether it's beards, history, or just a good laugh, keep tuning in. Until next time, keep your wits sharp and your beard sharper.
That's all we got. We'll be back next week. Take care, everybody. Peace.